reason I call it a camp is because we really want to have a program that isn't just a boat ride program. These are kids that don't get invited to other things and don't get included in other times where there's an opportunity for them to be with a big group and be part of the team. So I think it's really important that it is a camp and they feel that, hey, I got invited to be part of this. It's a 3-day camp. Kids come in and we have a lesson that we learn about, whether it's parts of the boat, points of sail, tacking, jibing, and then we take the kids on the water and they get to practice what we learned in the chalk talk. They really are learning why these boats work, how to make the boat work, how to drive the boat, what's making the boat sail, and how to work as a team while they're on the boat together. My name's Scott Herman. I'm the executive director and founder of Spectrum Sailing. Spectrum Sailing is the only national autism sailing program. We are here today, Corinthian Yacht Club in Chicago. We're hosting a 3-day camp for autistic kids here in Chicago, giving them an opportunity to go out and learn how to sail. Six years ago, my wife and I relocated back to Charleston. And in Charleston, there's 5 sailing programs on the harbor. I contacted all 5 to get my son Daniel into the program. None of them would allow him into sailing camp because of his autism diagnosis. My wife and I felt that that really wasn't an acceptable solution for us to get our son on the water, and so we started a local program in Charleston. The first year we had 10 spots. There were 70 kids applied for the first camp. We quickly realized that maybe we were onto something. We ran the camp in Charleston for the last 5 years. But last year, we decided to spin off Spectrum Sailing as its own 501c3 and take our program across the country. We were lucky enough to come here to Corinthian in our first year. We were also in Sarasota at the Sailing Squadron, and we had our camp in Charleston. So our first year, we had 60 kids through the program. This year, we are in 8 cities, and we'll have over 160 kids sail with us. We have never charged for a camp. I feel that it's extremely important that we make sure that every kid is included, and I feel that charging excludes some families. So if we're trying to build an inclusive sailing environment, I don't feel how we can do that and then charge. So our kids don't pay, our families don't pay. We are really working on creating national partnerships. We've had a great opportunity to work with Harkin. Harkin has stepped up and become our first national partner, but we're looking for more of those types of businesses or sponsors that align with our mission and that makes sense for us to work together nationally to make sure that we can keep bringing these camps to kids across the country.
My name is Bianca and my son is participating. His name is Giovanni. He's 13 years old, and I found out about this program through a Facebook post. He's never had any experience in sailing and he just loves being on boats, so I thought it was something good for him where he can also be with kids who are like him as well.
My son Luke is participating in this program first time this year, and he has no, obviously, sailing experience or anything, but this sounded fun for him, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for him to try something new.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and my daughter, who's 14-year-old, is participating as a photographer this year. She developed a hobby of taking pictures, so she contacted Scott and asked this year, can I volunteer as a photographer? And Scott says, why not? Okay. So that's how I am here.
My son didn't want to go initially. When, I told him, I signed you up for, we're going to go. Oh, no, I don't want to do sailing. Oh, let's try it. So yesterday he came home and he said he was so excited. He loved the waves.
After the first day of the sailing camp, he was really excited. He had so much fun. He was like, can I go back Wednesday and Thursday? He tried to throw in Friday, but I was like, we in Thursday. So he was like, okay, Wednesday and Thursday afternoon. And like I said, he just always loved being on the boat. So him being able to get this experience and, me as a parent feeling safe knowing that he's on the boat with someone who's not only well known with sailing, but also has experience with kids on the spectrum. That was, very reassuring to me. So it made me more excited for him.
So we've partnered with not only autism experts, but also experts from the education community to help us build a curriculum. And each day is pretty well laid out. So day 1, we jump into a learning task of the day. The first day is parts of the boat. Well, it makes sense because you have to know the parts of the boat to use the boat, right? So we go over all the parts of the boat, the names of the boat, parts of the boat, and they learn it all. And then we go to the boat for the first time. A lot of times for these kids, it's the first time they've ever walked up to a boat. And we do that on purpose for parts of the boat there, because while we're on the dock, we can review what we learned on the chalkboard, but it also gives them a time to start feeling more comfortable standing next to the boat, standing on the dock, being together in our life jacket. And then we load the boats and we go out sailing on day one, and they have an opportunity to talk about the parts while they're out there. Of course, there's more things they're learning while they're sailing the boat, but we had that task for the day, and that's the one thing that we learned. Day two, we talk about the weather, and then we hop right into points of sail in the no-go zone. And so I think that's an important element of learning how to sail, where you can take the boat and how to make the boat go where you want it to go. And so that's day two. We then go out again, back to the boats, load the boats, and we sail that day, and we work on showing, okay, this is a run that we talked about, this is a broad reach, this is close hauled, and they get a chance to drive the boat in different points of sail and feel how the boat is different, and feel what happens when we go in the no-go zone, what happens as we do that, right? And then day three, we really get into talking about tacking. Now, they've already tacked most likely throughout that, and they understand what that is because the instructors covered that, but we look at it more from if we want to sail from here to here, and here's the wind, how do we do that, right? And we talk about that on the chalkboard and really show it from a diagram standpoint. And then that day three is when we get out on the water, and hopefully by then, we're getting them all really involved with sailing the boat. And that's when we'll do the hot dog race or whatnot. So they have to aim for something and make the boat go around a mark, and they figure out how to make the boat actually work and do what they want it to do. You will see throughout the 3-day camp, not only does their sailing skills develop, but really it opens up their self-esteem. They really feel valued. We've created this safe space that they're allowed to come in here and be with peers. And the real development is not just in the sailing skills, but it's really on how they feel about themselves and what they feel that they can accomplish moving forward. So I think one of these unintended consequences of starting a sailing camp is this organically formed parent group that happens. A lot of the kids come from pretty far away to our camp, so the parents don't have time to drive home in between, so often they stay. We sail in beautiful locations, so they get a beautiful spot to sit in, and the parents can get together and talk about, well, where are you getting your prescriptions filled? Where do you get your son's haircut? Which dentist do you use? Because my son has a problem at the dentist. What's the best school? Where do you go for therapy? It's a great way for these parents to then get to have their own little group and talk about those things while they're here.
Me and Gio are always together. If I'm signing him up for something, usually they're like a parent chaperone or something needs to be there. So to be able to be like, no, parents, just sit over there, it actually gives me a chance to kind of talk and see how much we relate with our kids and, sharing different resources. I mean, she's shared music classes, we're sharing sports and photography. So it was just like, you gain so much out of it. I mean, we were taking selfies together and just sharing.
Best friends.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out that the impact, the fun, doesn't stop in the summer. So throughout the year, I would say to my daughter, remember that summer you didn't want to go to this camp, but you had a blast at the end.
Right.
So trying something new, when she needs to try something new, I can always refer to this experience. So, having more opportunities like this really helps with the kids.
One of my favorite, testimonials or successes from camp, we had a sailor with us, and he's a great kid. Day 3, it was really hot last year when we were in Chicago, and so the kids after sailing went down to the dinghy dock and would put their feet in the water and kind of cool off. And the mother and I were standing here over by the picnic table on the other side, and as Eli walked up, he was walking through the front grass of Corinthian here, the front yard, to the doors, and I was talking to the mom, and Beatrice starts crying and saying, he's pointing at her son. He's never done that. He's never done that. And I turn around thinking he's doing something bad, right? And he's just walking through the grass. I turn around, I'm like, Beatrice, what is that? She says, he's never walked barefoot in grass. 16 years old, it was too stimulating for him. He's never done that. And she was crying over it. Like, look at what he's doing. Now, I don't run a camp to teach kids to walk through the grass, but once he was sailing and once he felt like he could do anything, when he got off the boat day 3, he had just sailed the boat for the day. That day walking through the grass didn't bother him, and it put him in a different place. And those are the types of stories and those are the types of things that come from sailing and from our camp that really aren't sailing related. But once you see those things and you see these kids from day 1 to day 3, it makes you realize, well, how can we not run this camp? How can we not continue to grow this and give these kids this chance? We really are trying to build a safe place for these kids. And I see these stories and see these kids be successful in things outside of sailing when they leave our camp. And deep down, I feel it's because they finally feel like somebody cares and that they really can do anything once they learn to sail a boat.
Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit LaracyCPA.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., Helen, Herrick, JM, and Paul G.
What up?
Sailing, take me where? Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's going on?
How's Oakwood? Is it the safest street in town?
Nope. You guys, Joe and all those guys make fun of, what I'm trying to preach, and Joe's always comparing it to his quiet little street. This is a thoroughfare. This is not when I listened to the show last week. When they're, both of them saying, 40 cars in an hour. There's not a street in Lake Forest that's not a thoroughfare that gets 40 cars in an hour at 7 a.m.
That's right.
Prove me wrong.
But we got the data, and the cops aren't. I thought you said they put out the little radar signs.
Well, they got the radar, but people are speeding up to the radar. Hey, listen, go back to the old podcast when we talked about it. I said, this is what they do. They put this out there and think it's, the answer, and it's
Okay.
not. People are still speeding,
What's the
and
next step then?
no tickets are issued. The issue is they need to sit someone out there, and Jeff's wrong. They don't. Are you kidding me? The cops are too busy. Go to Starbucks on Saturday. It's 6:30 in the morning. There's
You heard
8 of
what
them.
I said?
They can put a guy on here for an hour. They've even put copless cars sitting at the corner that slow people. You got to give a ticket. Period. You got to have someone there and someone stopping traffic and issuing tickets, and people will not continue. But
All right. Let's find out.
until you don't do anything, they're not doing anything. It's lazy.
What are the old schoolers saying that's going on behind the scenes? Like, why are they doing that? I don't think
What's that?
I don't think the cops are lazy, but they must be directed.
I do. Pete, I'm a full-fledged behind the cops. My dad was a cop. My dad was the chief investigator in Lake County, started the investigation units in Lake County. However, to say that they're too busy is a joke. I have proof of laziness in cops not filling out accident reports because they don't want to upset either party, so they decide not to do it. That is their job. Issuing tickets and completing, stopping speeding is their job. Period.
I've seen that myself, so I agree with you, Skoo.
I mean, it's not calling out the police. It's their job. Look at the scooters. Remember how big this whole scooter issue was, and we're putting an ordinance in and everything, and giving them a little leeway. They're flying down, Market Square and all that, and the cops aren't doing anything. Nothing. That's what laziness is not enforcing the law.
I guess what I'm saying is the people on the street, the cops on the street, they'll do what their bosses tell them to do, right? So there must be getting direction not to do it.
Probably from their boss.
That's what I mean.
Hey, I mean, usually the police will ask, could we put this on your yard or whatever? Yeah, it just showed up. I know why it showed up, but that's fine. I enjoy it here. I am all favor of, but it doesn't do anything. There's no end game to that thing being there.
Yeah.
They'll eventually take it out, and then, people will go again. Mr. Herman.
What is up, everybody?
Did you guys ever meet when Scott lived here, Pete?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Scott, good to see you. Hi.
Nice to see you, sir.
Sorry, Skoo. Who is Scott?
Is it just the three of us?
I don't. It's like a bar. Wait. Fine. Hold on. Scott, this is like a bar. People show up, what's on their minds. We talk about it. And Yacht Rock came up, and then all of a sudden we're talking about you, Scott. I don't know why. Hi, Joe Weiss.
Hey, Joe. Hey, I'll give a quick intro to Scott and who he is, and then let Scott go away with it. But Scott used to live in Lake Forest, and we met that Scott and his wife moved onto the thoroughfare formerly known as Oakwood, and we were neighbors. And then they moved out to West Lake Forest.
Couldn't take the speeders anymore, so he had to left.
And
yeah, too much pressure.
We both have the pleasure of having two autistic children growing up here, and we've always talked about stuff going on, not going on for our kids, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Scott moved out to South Carolina. 10 years now or less?
Yeah, it was 8 years ago. Yeah,
man, that's unbelievable. But and we had talked about what Scott's dream was before he left out there, and actually pulled it together, and it's created a great opportunity for autistic kids, and a program that aren't really offered to kids of our ilk. And it's picked up, it's starting to expand, and he's doing great things. They're going to be in Chicago next week, and I always have thought that the North Shore is a perfect place to introduce spectrum sailing, and hopefully we can generate some people and need for one in our community to have them out, as well as up and down the North Shore. So with that, Scott Herman, Spectrum Sailing, let's go.
Yeah, so I did. My wife and I met in Charleston, and we ended up in Lake Forest. We lived there for 7 or 8 years, and we had two boys there, Daniel and Joey. 8 years ago, we relocated back to Charleston. So we're here in Charleston, South Carolina. Daniel, who's 17 now, is my autistic son. And in Lake Forest, at the time, the director of the sailing program was pretty open to having him participate. When I moved to Charleston, I looked to find that same opportunity. And unfortunately, through the 5 programs that were in Charleston, none really had the abilities or the services available to include Daniel. So after a year of him not being able to participate, I thought, well, why don't we just start a program? So we started that camp here in Charleston 7 years ago, and it's grown now into the only national autism sailing program. This year, we'll be in 12 cities across the country with over 250 kids participating. All of our programming has been free from day one. And Chicago has been a really important place for us in our expansion, as that was the first location that asked us to come on the road. So 4 years ago, we went to Montrose Harbor with Chicago Corinthian Yacht Club hosted us. And that was really the tipping point of when we became our own 501c3, built our own brand, our own websites, all that stuff, and became our own organization. So not only did I live there and I love Chicago and I obviously enjoy sailing there, but it really is, from the genesis of our program, a very important location, as that was our first travel camp we ever hosted.
How did you figure out your son had autism? What was the route that you went through? It's, we're just getting over Mental Health Awareness Month because, we only need to focus on it for 30 days. But
Yeah.
what was your progress? And then how do you mix that in with sailing? Because that's not the most safe sport you can do, is it?
Well, so for our personal story, autism truly is a spectrum. And, Skoo's son is different than my son. And everyone that comes to our camp is different and has different needs. And we build our camps to make sure that everyone has that chance to succeed. And success looks differently for each kid. But for our personal story with Daniel, we were at the preschool in Lake Bluff, and we were blessed to have an amazing teacher there. And she had substantially more experience than we did. And she said, I think you might want to have someone take a look with Daniel. So we did. My wife is a physician, so she was pretty much on top of that. And we were able to get him tested and some other things. Over time, we participated in a study called Spark. It's the largest genetic research study for autism. And Daniel was the 100th person ever diagnosed with a specific gene mutation that actually causes his autism. So we know, for a fact with him, how we got here and what we're dealing with. And then now our role as parents is just to give him the resources and services that he needs to be successful. But, every kid is different. And like I said, it really is a true spectrum. So neurodiversity as a giant bucket sort of includes that ADHD and other things. And we try, to make sure that these kids have a chance to participate in our program.
Now, this genetic test, my ears have perked. We're not talking 23andMe here. What did you get?
It's actually super similar. They mail you a kit and you spit in a tube. They had our whole family do that. Myself, my wife, and both of my children did, and they sent it in. And they found that, Carrie and I, neither one are carriers. And so it was just a fluke genetic mutation when Daniel was born or created. And, my other son, Joey, doesn't carry it as well. So it's just kind of a roll of the dice. But it's really, I think, from a peace of mind as a parent, it's really, it's very, I guess, comforting to know, hey, this is our legit cause. We know this is what we're dealing with. And to put some closure on it. I think every parent questions, could I have done this different, or did I do the right thing in this situation? So knowing that Daniel pretty much came that way, and that all we can do now is foster him and help him is really a reward and peace of mind for me, because it's tough to think about how things could have gone different or whatnot as a parent. And so it's good to know that there's some closure.
Well, your wife's a physician. I still want to poke into it. It's one thing to go into a doctor's office and then fill out those stupid history sheets. And it's another thing to get actual data from the genetics.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you find this test? What's the name of it? What's the gene?
Yeah, it's Spark, SPARK, and it's a national research study that is through Harvard, and anyone can participate. It's free to call in, and they'll send you a kit or they have some events. So we partner with children's hospitals across the country. So for our camp in Chicago, for example, we work with Rush, and Rush is a local center for Spark. So it's their responsibility to do retention, recruitment, all that stuff. So they actually come to our camps and talk to parents about that research and give parents an opportunity to participate if they choose to. In Houston, we work with Texas Children's Hospital. We're going to Boston this year. We're working with Harvard. In Charleston here, we have Medical University of South Carolina. So we partner with those institutions in each of our cities that we can. When we're in California, we partner with UCLA. So it's really great to have their team be part of us. And then, Spark just for us was a really important piece. And we just want to make sure parents know that it's a resource available to them.
Any other genetic tests that you guys did? But I don't want to get into HIPAA either, but whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm sure there's people that want to say, hey, what are we susceptible to?
Yeah, no, I mean, Daniel's 17, so we're talking about doing this. Testing was back, pretty long time ago. I'm trying to think of how old he was. I mean, he wasn't in kindergarten. So, the typical diagnosis for autism is, more of a soft skills test. They go in and they talk with them and they work with them and interact with the child and get a chance to see certain things. So that genetic study was just something more recently that came out.
Sailing. Why sailing?
So I kind of started this. Well, not kind of. I started it because I wanted my own kid to go sailing, so we would have an opportunity to sail together. It's a personal passion of mine.
Hey, Scott, let me interrupt. Just because Scott probably won't say. Scott's a big sailor, part of the Lake Forest Sailing Club, and has done a lot when he was here with the success of the sailing program that's currently here. Scott was on the rec board for a time and really pushed it, and I think from a ground up level is why it's so successful right now. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. No, so I really wanted Daniel to be able to participate in sailing with me. As an autistic son, there's certain things that we're not going to do together, but sailing definitely is an activity that I felt that he could do. And I didn't start sailing till I was later, older in life, and I missed that whole sailing camp experience. So I wanted Daniel to have that exposure and that social piece that goes with sailing and camps in general. And, like I said, there really wasn't one. So we started it really for him. And what was interesting is the first year here in Charleston, before we'd ever run programming, and I've never done anything, I'm just a dad, we had 70 kids apply for the first 10 spots. And that's when I realized that maybe there's a serious demand for this. So, like I said in the beginning, we're going to run this just in Charleston, and it's amazing to see what these kids pick up from in sailing. So the more I did it, I realized, hey, there really is some value here. It's more than just getting kids out on the water and giving them a boat ride. And then when we came to Chicago is when it really opened up and saw that. So like this year, for example, we partnered with George Washington University in DC. I had a doctoral student in the occupation therapy program work with us over a year, do a research study on the impacts like in self-esteem and friendship and social emotional growth. And she actually just published that study. So we're looking to continue our research with GW, but there's really, one of her takeaways from that research was she told me she thought that this was really a recreation study and that any activity could be subbed in for sailing. And she happened to just be working with us for the research. As she attended camps and saw what we did, she realized that there aren't a lot of sports that we can flip this around where there's such a social component, there's a physical component, there's a mental component. So really, it's a perfect fit, to be honest. And the growth between day one and day three is unbelievable. And seeing how these kids, we have kids who are docking the boat and they're sailing to the telltales. And I mean, they really have taken off and picked it up pretty quickly. So it's pretty fun.
I guess when I said why sailing, I just envisioned that you got that boom coming over, and if you're not moving, you're getting clocked in the head.
Yeah, I think Pete and I would be lost at sea if we tried sailing.
Yeah, so we
do
do
a little wind here.
We do use different boats than you would use in like typical children's learn to sail. So most kids start in like dinghy boats that would flip over and the kids get wet and all that. We use keel boats, which are much more aligned with the boats that adults would use to learn to sail. There is obviously a boom component. Day one, we learn parts of the boat and we talk about the boom. And why do we call it the boom? Because we don't want to get a hit in the head, right? So we get our kids when they come in, they sit down immediately, and we obviously have to be cognizant of the boom and all of that. But we're pretty staunch on safety. Water safety is extremely important to us. Drowning is the number one cause of death in autistic youth. A lot of that is because of elopement, but we take it very seriously, so much so that we rolled out the first autism water safety training program. We partnered with an organization in Chicago called Aspiritech, and Aspiritech hires and trains neurodiverse adults and gives them jobs. And so all of our online training was built by autistic adults, which I'm pretty proud of. So we rolled that out this year. So we can share that with other yacht clubs and other facilities about how we focus on water safety with our kids and making sure that it's a safe environment for them to participate in the waterfront.
You got into sailing as an adult. Like, how much of an adult? You weren't one of those guys hanging down by Forest Beach saying this is your yacht club. Is that when
we did have Lake Forest Yacht Club. Last time we used when I was there, we used the lantern as our clubhouse. And last time I was there, our trophy was still hanging up, and I believe my name is at the top. I'll just leave it at that. You can go find it. Sadly, they did hang it by the bathroom. I'm not sure if that was on purpose or what. But we did have a little yacht club there in Lake Forest. I started sailing about my junior year of college, and I jumped into big boats. So I was racing boats like you'd see in the Mac. I just showed up and started crewing with a friend, and next thing you know, you learn and you learn. And we've moved across the country. I've had a chance to sail in a lot of different places, and so we just actually this week purchased a bigger boat that we could race here in Charleston. So I'm excited to get back involved in real sailboat racing. The problem is our camps have gotten so popular. I think from June through August, I had 6 camps. As of now, I attend them all. So it's a lot of travel and a lot of sailing for other people. Not a lot of focus for me to go sailing, but we're getting there.
Scott, once you have an event, do the people come back next year in force, or are you creating new as well as existing?
So depends on the city and depends on the demand, but we've never had a camp that wasn't over full. This year, for example, we doubled our camp in Chicago because the demand was so high. So we'll be in Montrose at Corinthian like we've done every year, but we also added a camp in Jackson Park. And so we'll have actually 40 kids next week sail with us. We've never done that with 2 camps at the same time. Obviously, the lakefront's pretty unique where you have different spots along the lake. So we're going to try that next week. But next week, all 40 kids are new. They've never been in our program. When we have such a demand like we do in Chicago, I try to get new kids every time. Some of our camps, we will let kids that have been before come back. Some of our camps will have a weather delay or an issue, like last year in Pensacola. So then this year when we went to Pensacola, I gave returning sailors the same chance as a new sailor because they didn't really get to participate. So it depends on where we are, but the demand in Chicago is so high that it's pretty much all new kids every time. So much so that I've had parents complain like, well, what do you mean Susie doesn't get to come back? I'm like, well, we had a great time with Susie, but I got a bunch of other kids that need to come too. So we really try to include as many as we can. There's possibilities in the future where we could have more of a brick and mortar program, or we would run a whole program all summer in Chicago or something along those lines, where then we could get some alumni to rotate back in. But right now our goal is to make sure we get as many new kids as possible.
Are they Chicago kids, or are they coming up from the North Shore or out west and all that?
I'd have to run down the attendee list, but we get a lot from the North Shore that come for our Corinthian camp. Obviously, Jackson Park's even farther. I know our South camp, I think I had 1 kid from Indiana, and the rest were really from Chicago proper. Our Corinthian camp, I know a couple of years ago, we had a kid from Wisconsin. Our camp in Maine last year was hilarious. We had a family drive from Florida to Maine. I think they wanted to like make a vacation out of it, but they did a road trip for camp. So sometimes we have people that come from out of town for camps, but Chicago, the demand is so high that it's pretty much all like Chicago and suburb kids. I will say we do a camp in Holland, Michigan, and we do have some kids that apply from Chicago because they couldn't get into their camp. They'll apply to Holland and they'll go over and do like a weekend as a family. So
Is it true there's two types of boaters, sailboaters and motor boaters? And if so, explain the differences, please. Thank you.
well, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I have a powerboat.
I do.
So I do both, but I always tell people it's sort of like chess and checkers, where powerboating is checkers. You can learn how to do it pretty quickly and easily.
So power boaters are dumb?
I'm just saying it's more checkers for a powerboater. With sailing is something you can do your whole life and continue to learn and improve, and there's different skills and all that. So I think of that more like a chess match versus checkers. That's how I compare it.
So have you tried to get some of your events, camps up this way, or how can we interject the podcast into the community to kind of embrace you guys and bring it home here?
Yeah, there's a number of ways that anyone can help us. First, we're always looking to expand. There was some interest from the Community Sailing Center in Milwaukee. Being a national program, I can't do, camps next door to each other. But if there's demand and there's interest, we'd be happy to do something on the North Shore. Sheridan Shores at one time expressed some interest. Lake Forest has a great facility down there. I'm not exactly sure the current boat situation, but we probably could work on that. And we could even do a camp where we partner where, Sheridan Shores and Lake Forest and, Highland Park or something like that work together to put the camp together. I'd be open to something like that. I mean, sailing in the summer is so great in Chicago. If I have an excuse to go back, I wouldn't be upset about that. Other ways that anyone that's listening can help would be, we're always looking for volunteers. So on our website, you can see where our camps are and you can volunteer. And then lastly, our programs are all free of charge for families, but as you can imagine, they're not free of charge. So we're always looking for community support from individual donors, sponsors, companies, anyone that's interested in our mission and wants to help us continue to grow. We'd be happy to welcome them aboard.
Scott, looking at your website here, which is spectrumsailing.org.
Correct.
I'm sure Pete can put the link up there. I mean, the numbers, you've got a section here with the impact of numbers and some really impressive stuff here. So 14 locations nationally, over 35 camps, over 700 participants, 700 sailors, and over 435 volunteers trained in autism and water safety. So that has quite an impact.
Yep.
Not just the days of the camp, but afterwards for these.
I say all the time that our camp is sort of a ripple. Like that's the big splash, and then there's all these people that are impacted. It's a massive impact for parents, to be honest with you. There aren't programs that include their kids. These are parents who have seen their kids fail, and then they show up here and their kid succeeds. And these aren't yacht club kids that happen to have autism, like my son. These are kids who, most of them have never walked on a dock, never put on a life jacket, never been on a boat. So their kid, I joke, like you could just tell these parents that we're going to take them to the moon because they think sailing is a task that there's no way they could accomplish. And by day 3, they see their kids succeeding and coming home and telling them all these stories and all that. So that's one impact. And the parents don't get a break. This is a drop-off camp. This is not a mommy and me go sailing. I had a mom in California this year. Her kid is like 13-year-old, amazing kid. I would love to have a camp full of kids like him. And she said this is the first program she's ever not had to participate with her son. So she just dropped them off and got to go sit in the car and have a coffee and read a book and take a break. People don't understand having what it's like to be a parent of a special needs kid. And this is a real impact for them. They feel included. They get a break. There's all these things. And then our instructors and our staff that come out and work with us. I've had kids who were majoring in education come to our camp and switch their major to special ed because they had an opportunity to work with our kids. And then you think, how many kids is that person going to impact in the rest of their life? So there's a massive ripple effect. Everyone that participates, I think, takes something away. And I've yet to have anyone come out and think, wow, that was a waste of time. So we'd love to welcome anyone that wants to come check out our camps next week. Like I said, we'll be in Chicago, and they can reach me at scott@spectrumsailing.org. And I'm happy to welcome them into camp, and they can get a chance to see our impact firsthand.
And just to add, I mean, that what Scott was saying, having a special needs child is a completely different world. And when it comes to sporting events or anything that multiple types of kids play or do, autistic kids are usually excluded. There's no programs for autistic kids in park districts and all that. You're all grouped into one, and more often than not, the autistic type of child, special needs type of child is excluded. Not excluded intentionally, but excluded because they can't do it. What Scott has created is something that's, I think, incredible, unbelievable, and we get to kind of own Scott saying he's from Lake Forest, but it's something that's needed not only in our community, everywhere up and down the North Shore, not just sailing, but special needs camps and events or stuff like that where kids with those needs can go and not be excluded. So it's phenomenal. I mean, knowing Scott, it's just crazy. We talked about so many different things when he was living here about autism and our kids, and to really put something that he loves, like sailing, into something that other people could enjoy is phenomenal. And how we can get it into Lake Forest and the North Shores. This is what the podcast is about, and I think so.
Special Olympics, is this a sport?
It depends on where you are. South Carolina has a regatta that they do with Special Olympics. So it depends on the location. I've seen it in a couple other places, but it's not as, it's not like a track and field event or bowling or something where pretty much everybody has that.
I think some Lake Forest companies would definitely want to sponsor something like that, get some medals going. Even though you're in South Carolina, we can make something. Those medals, man, those kids get pretty fired up. You got any before and after stories that you can talk about? Mom says, hey, my kid was like this, and then I met you, Scott, and then this. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, I get them a lot. We do knot tying before every camp, and that's something we do like before the session when they come in, so they learn a knot of the day. I've had a lot of parents tell me that, Billy can't tie his shoes, but now you've taught him all these knots and he's into it and learned to tie his shoes, which, doesn't seem like that big a deal to a parent, but when that means he can only buy certain shoes and whatnot. So, I mean, that's a life skill that they pick up through camp. One of my favorites was a young girl in Jacksonville. She couldn't ride a bike, and bike riding and autism is there's tons of studies done in it. It's a very hard skill for a lot of autistic youth to learn. And so this one strikes me personally because I struggled a lot with Daniel to get to learn to ride a bike. It was one of those sort of tasks that I was like, we are going to accomplish. And it took a lot longer than I wanted to, but we got there. So he does ride a bike. But she came home from sailing camp, and this young girl had struggled learning to ride her bike. She got out of the car. This is a story from her mom. She got out of the car, wheeled the bike out of the garage, and rode down the street. And her mom stood there in the driveway in tears. And she said to me, I think she learned this because, you taught her how to drive with a tiller, and she learned the balance of the boat. And I didn't have the heart to tell her, but I'm like, that has nothing to do with riding a bike. What it is, in my opinion, is she went to a sailing camp, accomplished something she never thought possible. Here she is driving a boat, sailing a boat, making the boat go, working as a team. And her self-esteem was so high that day that she came home. She was like, I'm going to ride this bike today. And she went out and did it. So, those are all life-changing skills that are really impactful to me. And plus that story, what it opens up for the families, right? Now they can do bike rides together. There's things you can do. I've had parents tell me their kids tried new foods after camp, which sounds like no big deal, but when your kid only eats 3 foods and you can't go to restaurants, and now they're willing to try things, we don't run a camp to teach kids, food aversion and how to try different foods. But what happens is the impact from our camps and that self-esteem and how they feel and what they accomplish carries over into other areas in their life, which I think is pretty awesome to hear those stories.
The people that don't know about autism, Scott and Skoo, pipe in, please, because I'm going to get ahead of my skis here and I'll need to be corrected shortly. But if you have autism, your filter isn't able to filter out everything that somebody else can do, and you become overwhelmed. I'm wondering, is that true? And if it is true in a sailing environment, are you more isolated where you don't have to have all those impressions, distractions to keep you on course?
Well, every kid is different. And I know I've said that a couple of times on this call, but it is extremely true. So there is no sort of one way that how every autistic person acts or what they have that they deal with. So we're really fluid in our camps to make sure that every kid, we meet their needs so they have a chance to be successful. But that said, we have some kids that I had a kid in Chicago the first year. He was having a very difficult time just being in the classroom, to the point where I thought this might be the first kid we've had to send home. And I was like, well, we'll try it. We got him on the boat, and he was a totally different kid. He sat there and was peaceful. The water to him was like his calming place. He came back in and actually laid down on a chair and took a nap. Like, that's how calm he was. And before we left, I thought this was a kid was having such a struggle, we wouldn't even be able to let him participate. So, a lot of people spend a lot of money on beach vacations and buying boats because I think all of us are sort of drawn to the water. And that's extremely true for our kids as well. And it really is a place where they can relax and calm and take that in. And so we're excited to have them be able to do that. We have other kids that want to drive and make the boat go fast. So we pair them all up, where one kid wants to lean back and just take it in, and somebody else wants to drive around. So every kid takes something else away from camp. Now we are in 12 cities. I started the year in California. I'm going to Boston. We go all through the Midwest. We were in Texas. We have 3 camps in Florida. We're adding Seattle next year. And a number more will continue to get added. I just know that Seattle's already been confirmed for 2026. So we will continue to grow. We are the only national program that exists. And, it opens up doors for me to get an opportunity to go speak and meet with people like you. I talk at conferences now. People are really taking interest in what we're doing. And the more we can share that, as well as share our training and our methodology, we can open doors for even more kids. There's no reason in a growth strategy that what we do for autistic kids couldn't be done for kids with different diagnoses. I think our teaching and methodology of how we run camp would work for Downs kids or work for kids with other diagnoses. And so we could continue to expand and include even more kids. Right now I run this program up until this year. I ran this by myself for the last 3 years, unpaid. This year I hired a part-time staffer, so I have actually some help. All of these ideas are on the table. It's just right now a bandwidth issue. And, as we can continue to grow, we need to find some more Mr. Scotts so they can go to camp. My wife's like, okay, 12's enough. So this year we rolled out a pilot where we had an instructor that's worked with us for a number of camps, and she went and was me at a camp, and it went really well. So we're looking at that as a growth strategy for next year as well. So, as we put those pieces together, there's real opportunity for us to grow and continue to include more and more people.
I mean, do you see, Scott, similar like Lake Forest has a sailing club, et cetera, a packaged type of a product from Spectrum Sailing that you guys can just plant into each community and then oversee it from a distance?
Right. So there are a couple ways we're looking at growth, and I call that like a franchise model, but that is something that we've looked into. I think a lot of it depends on the staff that's there. Like, I'll give you an example. In Holland, the woman who is the director is a retired special ed teacher. So that's one that's pretty simple to put in place, right? And that'll probably be one that we pilot, where we give them the tools and then they run camp without us. Some other places really like that we're a turnkey program where we come in and do it all for them, and we just train their staff. So, the good thing is we leave their staff better trained. So then when you have an undiagnosed kid that comes in, or an ADHD kid, because trust me, they have plenty, their instructors have more tools on how to deal with those kids, even though it's not a Spectrum Sailing week.
Well, I'm going to volunteer Pam to run it for you guys here.
All right. Well, let's do it. We can make that happen. I've got to make a couple calls and get some boats, but I don't think that's that would be that hard. So you have a beautiful lakefront, that's for sure.
You have those little, I don't even know what I'm looking at here, Scott. So you got to bear with me. I see like a bigger sailboat and I see like 5 little tiny sailboats behind it. Would that be a training vessel going through to show them how? Is that what
that's on our website?
No, I'm just saying I'm in Lake Forest Beach and I see.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that was my comment earlier
like
where we use different,
yeah,
we use different boats to train. So those kids that you're seeing are learning the exact same thing in the classroom that we teach. But we put the way our camps work in those situations, there's 1 kid or 2 kids in little teeny boats, and they're having a coach out there that is kind of like the mommy duck and the baby ducklings. And that's what most of the kids in Lake Forest, how they learn to sail. The way we do it is a little different. We have a really strong adult to kid ratio. So there's 2 adults on every boat. And in those boats are 3 to 4 kids. So they have a team that works together to sail. These are the bigger boats. In Lake Forest, for example, the ones that you see on the trailer over by the crane, those are more like the boats that we use versus the ones that you see the kids using at your typical camp, like Lake Forest runs week to week. So we use those boats. And then I'm out in a coach boat with another adult. So we have 8 adults on the water for 10 kids. And then I'm the one in the power boat that goes around and checks on everybody and takes pictures and makes sure everybody's having a good time and all that. So
is there a group that's only motorboats?
I'm sure there's a powerboat club somewhere.
Disregard that question. He's trying to. Hey, Scott, for perspective, in Lake Forest, if you had this program, how far out do you go into the lake, or do you train in that little well there, or how does?
Yeah, we would definitely go out into the lake because we're using bigger boats. But you're always within, I don't know, a mile or so, probably not even within that area. We like to keep everybody close. The parents like to watch and see their kids sailing. Secondly, the pictures are better when the boats are together, right? We like to have everyone, they get to kind of race each other and see what the other boats are doing. And then also there is a safety component. So if there's a kid that has an issue, and we have to bring them in, then we don't want them too far out. So we keep within a reasonable distance, but we wouldn't be in the little marina. We'd be out into the lake.
For a city kid that only knows motorboats, Scott, that's a team sport, right? I mean, you have to get together and everybody has to come together because if you don't do your part, then the group fails. Kids today, they respond more to that than individual tasks. Am I right or am I off?
Our kids love it. And I think if you look at the research from GW that we did, I think that social piece is really strong, right? If you sail a boat by yourself, there's not a lot of social piece except the coach coming over and telling you what you did right or wrong. These kids have to work together. And the other thing is, Skoo kind of alluded to it before, where when an autistic kid comes to a camp with all kinds of kids, they're kind of the oddball out or maybe doesn't fit in and can't succeed. In this group, these kids are pretty tolerant of each other because they all kind of know they're literally in the same boat. So there's some kids who want to do certain tasks. Maybe one kid really doesn't want to drive or doesn't want to help with this, and they can take turns and do the different tasks on sail trim or whatnot. And the parent and the adults that are on the boat, can interact there too. And so it takes all 5 of them or all 6 of them to make the boat go. And everyone has to kind of be part of that. So
just like a podcast. Scott, what's your website again? Where can we point people?
Sure. spectrumsailing.org. And anyone that wants to reach out to me directly can do that on the website, or they can email me at scott@spectrumsailing.org. We'd love to have any and all from Lake Forest that want to help us out. Our board president is still a Lake Forest resident. We still have some pretty strong ties there. So we miss the community, but we would be happy to come back and help the sailing program there. Get some more kids on the water.
Want to give a shout out to who the president is?
Alwin Brunner. He was also involved and still is, I believe, in the Lake Forest Yacht Club. It's actually how I met him, and we became friends over time. And then we were neighbors briefly, and but now we've moved, and but Alwin's still in Lake Forest, and he is our board president.
Skoo and Joe, you got anything else for Scott? Or because I think he's done with my dumb jokes.
He was done with your dumb jokes the minute the show started.
I prepped him.
Scott, I noted, having worked with some folks who had children with autism, there's other activities too that I believe horseback riding is one that there's a couple of camps in the area near the forest preserves where some of the stables are and stuff like that. As we said earlier, I think sports is really a great, just taking baseball as an example. Most kids are not going to play Major League Baseball, but the experience helps them build confidence and skills for life in general, right? I mean, and so are there other activities? What would be something if we have an audience here of parents who maybe just had a child diagnosed with autism, what would be some of the activities besides sailing that you'd recommend out there?
Yeah, I would definitely, one thing I would say is don't underestimate your kids. Sign them up for things and let them try it, because you have no idea what they'll be able to do. But I know the woman that I work with at Rush runs a autism climbing program where they're in one of the indoor climbing gyms downtown. My son participates in an organization called Miracle League, which invites kids of all different abilities to play baseball. We have kids in wheelchairs. They have kids in all kinds of different configurations, and they have a hard, it's almost like a carpeted baseball diamond, but it's, almost full size. It's pretty big. And they play baseball there. Those equestrian programs, like you mentioned, are around the country. And I think they've been really successful for people, not even just autistic kids, but I've seen PTSD and adults, warriors, veterans, things like that. And so I would probably say that for sailing is probably the most akin to that horseback, where there's, a lot, but we add another social aspect, because you're not, riding a horse by yourself. We're, putting people together to sail together. And there's veteran programs, there's PTSD programs with sailing as well that are all, looked at as therapy, similar.
One of them did scuba diving.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Stay away from the movie Jaws. Whatever. I told you, Scott, I was trying to move you out, and then Joe brought you back in. Skoo, you got anything else? You finished?
No, I just, great job, Scott.
Great program, Scott. Thanks for sharing it with us. Yeah, it's terrific.
If you guys are got some free time or you're downtown next week, swing through. I'll be at Jackson Park, but the Montrose location will have, I gave them like my A team of volunteers, so it'll be well represented there.
Need to find your way back to the Lantern for a Miller Lite.
Yeah, I was there last summer. I'm gonna have to. I follow them on Facebook, so I always see their posts.
We'll see you at Montrose Rocks, man. We'll bring the cooler, some Meisterbrows. Gets to do some smelt fishing.
Yeah. Oh, they're down there. They're there every day, man. These guys are fishing there, and I'm just sailing by them.
They smell great.
Yeah. Well, good. I appreciate it. When if you can send me whenever it goes live, I'll post it on our Facebook and share it and all that stuff.
Absolutely, Scott. You got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right.
Great work.
Day, guys.
Be good. Speaking of smelt, Pete.
Sailing. Those who smelt
Lake Forest used to have a smelt group of several people, and used to have a smelt cookout and all that, which I think they've gotten rid of because the smelt are all gone from the Canadian whatever bug came down and ate all the.
Now it's just the what is it, the carp?
Yeah.
No, we
that
disrupted.
was big. God, that was big back in the day.
I think we disrupted their environment in the 80s by fixing up the beach.
No, it was a infectious
fish jackage.
Yeah, it was. No, it was like not a leech, but
fungus.
Yeah, that came in and just kind of, you don't see seaweed down in the lake anymore because it's all been kind of gutted.
the old school Chicagoans can smell those guys coming on the bus with their buckets and their overalls going down to Montrose and Foster. Oh man, they smell. Oh,
Hey, catch them and cook them.
it's a lot you got to cook. All right, so Skoo, you want to give us an update on Oakwood, or are we all good? People are just crawling by on that street
Yeah,
now?
no, they're not. Nothing's changed. Like I said earlier, until we get some tickets administered, it's just going to keep.
I like the where they place the speed machine right on your front lawn.
Right under the tree. It's perfect.
Well played, LFPD. Well played.
It's perfect. I welcome it.
Well, if that's what it takes, I mean,
And the movie you weren't on the show last week, but the movie I referenced with the guy pitching by the speed machine was The Rookie.
Yep.
Which was a
Dennis
great
Quaid.
movie.
Dennis
Dennis
Quaid.
Quaid. Great movie.
Joe, congratulations, Lauren Weiss.
Alexander Robert Turlap. Lauren Renee Weiss. Maxwell Lowndes Wenninger. Catherine Frances Westerman. Lucas Maxwell Kroner. Miles Cannon Mackey. William Cogan Manley. Gianni Filippo Meucci. Ryan John Milliman. Houston Riley O'Neill. James Francis Rappel II. Joseph Herbert Remus. Braden Gray Tiergart. Daniel Joseph Van Camp. Brendan Daniel Walsh. John McMahon Walsh.
Class of 2025, please stand. Turn your tassel. I certify that the students before you have met all requirements of the Board of Education and henceforth shall be called the Class of 2025 and Lake Forest High School graduates. Congratulations.
Out.
Fooled them.
Oh yeah.
Out.
Congrats.
She fooled them.
And then the lacrosse team, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh, this was, I mean, you got
Back.
the video and you posted some of it already, but go back and this was really cool. So the ceremony, and you know, I have my criticisms of the school district, but I have to give props to Matt Montgomery and the
I love the
staff
school
for
district.
what?
I love the school district.
And the school district loves you.
Absolutely.
But no, and I actually I ran into Matt before the ceremony started. We had a nice chat. But they're about to do the number one, the great organization by the staff. But number two, I loved how at none of the speeches at this graduation were the political BS that you see at other schools. When my son graduated from Glenbrook South, my alma mater, Niles North, recently had a speaker last year that got into a whole Gaza speech and all this crap. The speeches were totally non-political, which seems like the way it should be everywhere, but it was in Lake Forest. So props that nobody turned it into
The
some type of
Oscars.
political statement. But so you're going through the ceremony, you're doing all the stuff, and then they're about to do the reading of the names. And they say, and all of a sudden you hear this loud cheering in the background. Like, what in the world? And the bus pulls up with, and they get on the mic and they say, folks, we've got the boys lacrosse team is back and they just won the state championship. So the crowd goes nuts. And the guys that are the seniors, they finally come out. They're holding the trophy. They got a sign that says state champion, and they've got their graduation robes on over their uniforms. And so they put them at the end. So my daughter, of course, is near the end with the last name W, starting with the letter W. But then after whoever the Z's were, they put all the lacrosse guys. And let's just say they were a bit on the rowdy side, having just won a state title.
Yeah.
So they were like, but they all, and the captain, I don't know his name, went absolutely last, and he's holding the trophy up on the stage. It was really a great experience. You couldn't have written it any better. I'm not sure where. I think they were in. Was it somewhere in
Written better
DuPage
last
County
year for the first time.
Yeah, so I mean, we're becoming the lacrosse capital of Illinois here. I mean, I don't know how the girls did this year, but the girls placed third last year. So this is lacrosse city USA here, I guess. Got a good lacrosse team.
Yeah, and the girls lacrosse team, shout out to our old buddy John Lazeretto and the Bandits Lacrosse Club. They're the reason why they're so good.
Bandits.
Yeah. So great ceremony that, like I said, you couldn't have written this script any better with a state championship team walking on the stage in the middle of the ceremony.
I could hear it. I was out in the yard and I could hear it over here on the thoroughfare formerly known as Oakwood.
Yeah. And fortunately, the weather this year was nice. Last year they had rain. The weather was just perfect. Though my advice to anyone going to the ceremony is put sunscreen on your face. I had a nice jacket and dress shirt on and all that, and got home that night and my face was all sunburned. So
and then shout out to Steve Douglas and his
yeah
and his crew.
With the drone, he's flying the drone over the over there, and he didn't crash. It didn't crash and hit anyone. So.
Now, does he work for the school or Hallmark Channel?
Cool.
He's with the school. He also, we know him. He attends our church. But yeah, he and the video, and I think you put the clip at the end where they showed the kids throwing the caps in the air, and then the drone like flies off and shows the lakefront like the end of a Hallmark movie. It was great production skills. These drones are really changing the dynamics of an event.
What you don't see is, where's my damn hat?
Yeah, how did they do that? When they all throw them, how do you recover yours? Do you have your name on it?
Fishing wire.
So the strategy is, I've been told by my 2 high school graduates, is you throw it and then you kind of, how you like the guests when they do the ball under the hat at the baseball game, you kind of like watch the trajectory of your hat and see where it goes. But they're all the same hat unless you've decorated it some way. So
why don't you do a fake
the end of the world? If you, I mean, are you going to use this hat again after that day? So does it matter which hat you get unless some of the kids decorate the back of it and stuff like that. But
no,
there were no injuries from the hats flying.
Dress up, Dave.
Oh.
It's all fun till someone loses an eye.
No, it's perfect. And they had the tents out there all week, and the weather came through, so they got rid of the tents. It was magnifique. So
yeah, I mean, the backup plan was to go into the gym, which nobody really wants to do because I mean, Well, a couple things. One, then you have to limit the number of tickets, I think, to 4 people. So you can't, people can't have extended family and friends there. And that is just, I can't think of a better location. And I've been to, other graduations at different places. Some places rent out Ravinia or
Can't go there
the
anymore.
basketball stadium what's it called now, where Northwestern plays. I used to be called Welsh Ryan Arena. I don't know what it's called anymore. New Trier does theirs in Hoffman Estates at the Now Arena that it is on
I think that used to
I-90,
be
which
Poplar Creek, didn't it? No?
well, it's near where Poplar Creek was, yeah.
Okay.
So, which is quite a drive. Glenbrook South used the Rosemont Theater to do theirs. So, I mean, I
Lake
guess you
Forest
get
used
the
to have Ravinia. Can't go there anymore.
Yeah, I've been told the story of why they got kicked out, and I did see a few young men smoking cigars
And it
after the ceremony.
wasn't student related.
Oh, wasn't Stu? Oh, okay. Because I was told because of the cigars, but okay. Um, but it's nice to, I guess on the one hand, it's nice to have it indoors and because of the weather and those things. But man, if you get the great weather like we did that day, it's
Yeah, that was
just
a great
there's
day.
no better place, particularly since with the historic front of that building. And I didn't know the story of the Latin phrase that's over the door there
It's a Latin phrase
until we
over
heard
the
it.
door. No sabe.
Skoo, you probably know it better than me, but the front door to the school has something written in Latin, and Matt did a great job of
I've
explaining in
heard
his
it, but
speech.
I don't know it off the top of my
All
head.
right, you should pull. I forgot because of my sunburn, but but Pete, you should pull Matt's speech and put it up from the YouTube video because he gave a really great speech. I give Dr. Montgomery credit.
How much did he
It was an
expense the
excellent
speech vendor
speech.
for it?
And like I said, nobody did any of this political BS that you see at some of these graduation ceremonies. It was what it should be, and that's just remembering your 4 years as a high school student.
Duly noted. Skoo, how was it for you back in the day? Did you have that fancy setup, or was like, here you go, kid, beat
We
it?
were on the football field, which is now a Lindenmeyer Field, which is if you're facing the school, to the left where they have gym class.
Yeah, because back when you were there, they played football at the school, not at the building out on Waukegan Road.
Right. And they still should be playing at East Campus on the football field and all that. But that's a whole different
Episode?
story.
We could do that. Last thing on the list, I saw Canton Zero, or not Canton Zero. Who's the Bandits guy, Skoo?
John Lazeretto.
Lazeretto. I saw him on the other podcasts. Good for him, any type of exposure he can get. But why the hell is he not one of the retired people for Lake Forest High School athletics? Wasn't he
Wait a minute.
All-State?
Oh, on the Wall of Fame? Yeah,
Yeah.
he is, yeah, he should be. And it just was he's one of only, I want to say it's 5 now that are true first team all-state football players. He was the third one, I think. And there's only been a few since, but all around the Wall of Fame except John, and that's a crime because what he accomplished at the high school, not too many kids since.
Is there a reason he's not? Is this like a Pete Rose thing that he got?
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just a matter of, coaches didn't, it was a prestigious deal, when we were growing up. I mean, you don't just get because you were all conference on the Wall of Fame. I mean, the Wall of Fame was prestigious, and my understanding is the coach at the time just didn't nominate. And there wasn't a nominating committee and all that, but it's well overdue. He should be on it, and they should do everything they can to get on it because that's a huge deal to be one of only 5 graduates in the 90 years to be first team all-state football player.
But
And
like
people can say, oh yeah, this kid was all-state. No, there's only one true all-state.
Old school All-State.
Yeah.
So how do we get this going? Does Pete start an online petition? Do we go to the next school board meeting? Do we get Montgomery on the show and harass him about it? What do we do?
We got shopping carts. We got Oakwood. Are we going to say Lazeretto, is that the next one we're working on, Skoo?
He's got to be on there. I mean, I've pushed it. It just doesn't get any traction, but he should be on there.
Who
He
votes
should
on
be-
this? The coaches?
Yeah, that's the AD. I think it's no, it's not the AD. I don't know. There's
Oh,
so
Knollwood Club. It's
I don't know how it does, but
caucus votes on
there's
it.
been talk about a old timer type of thing, and it's like no, he should be
doesn't
done.
deserve to be
Then
on.
the next time we induct people, that he should be on there. Period.
I hope this isn't like Ron Santo where they wait till he dies to put him in the Hall of Fame.
He should be on it. He deserved it. What he did at the high school, and on top of it, post high school, what he's doing for the high school now with the
Yeah.
Bandits Lacrosse is, incredible.
And speaking of coaches, I forgot, and going back to the ceremony, they gave a nice award to Coach Spagnoli, who's retiring. Is he retiring as the coach too, or just as a teacher? So he'll
Teacher.
still coach?
Teacher,
Okay, so
my
he'll still
understanding
coach
is
the team.
he's
But
coaching still.
and I didn't know his role with at the school working with children who happen to have special needs. And so they had a very beautiful thing where they brought up the kids in his that are in his classes to tribute to him, and which was really wonderful. I mean, there wasn't a dry eye on that lawn after those kids spoke, because it was just a very moving experience. I had no idea. I just figured he was coaching the football team and
He can teach
teaching a
shop.
gym class or something, or shop. Yeah, which is what most high school football coaches do. But he has really had as much of an impact as he had as a football coach. He's had even more of an impact as a teacher on those kids, and that's just kudos to him.
So we got to wait, what, 6 months? He's got to take 6 months off before he can come back?
No, he's coaching. That's
Okay.
been all resolved.
So you can be retired, get your pension as a teacher, but still coach the football team.
Okay.
Don't know. There's issues around that, but it's been all resolved, so he's coaching.
Great.
So it
That's
has
awesome.
resolved. Okay, great. Genius. All right, Skoo, who do we get this going with for Lazeretto? What's my first email?
To be honest, don't know. I've tried everything on my end, and it just goes on deaf ears.
Well,
but,
let's get Dr. Dr. Montgomery said has
there-
an open
there
invitation.
should
He said he'll
be-
come back
There
on.
should be no question. There should be no nominations. There
Not a
should be
Montgomery
no.
thing.
There should be no. Well, let's think about it. His record and what he did athletically at the high school. Period. It should be in the next induction. They should be putting him up there. I should be announcing him. With all the other kids going on it.
So the athletic director, is that the first email?
I don't know. I don't think Tim does. There's a committee or something now. I don't know. I'm not really in
Well-
tune with it, but I've told people that's
Skoo, a problem.
why we're waiting this long. The guy graduated and
Well, everyone's
The
watching
70s.
this podcast that does know how
I'd
to
already
do
tuned
this.
out.
So where y'all?
I mean, you can
what
count
y'all need
on
to do
a
here.
hand and two fingers. One finger. How many high school football players have made the Illinois State first team all football?
A problem well defined is half solved. So
Yeah.
whoever is in charge of this group, we have to find out who that is. Are you sure it's not at the Knollwood Club and it's not the caucus? It's not the caucus's fault.
No.
Is it in Wensia?
I went see ya.
I don't know. There's a wall of fame. Now there's a wall of fame for students or, graduates that have done significant things post college
Sure.
and all that. I don't think it's the same thing. I think there's an athletic one, but I'm not.
All right.
I
Is
talked about
Vince,
it.
is Vince Vaughn on that wall of fame?
He's on the yeah, they just had a class come through there. He's on it, yeah. There's a lot of pretty prominent people.
Yeah.
Except us.
Didn't
We have
go
to
to
make-
high
Well,
school.
we're not great. I would nominate Skoo. I think Skoo, you've done enough with your
30
service
years,
as a
31
PA
years,
announcer
yeah.
and co-host of this podcast and all the other stuff you do.
Probably keeping me
Local,
from it.
local business owner, contributing to our local economy. You should be on there, but let's get the coach on first.
Yeah, you should be. Like I said, there should be no discussion or anything. It should be. Sorry he hasn't been on it in the past, but he's now on it.
Like I said, this smells of a Ron Santo thing.
Joe Weiss, why don't you dust off your keyboard there and get started on this? Find out who's behind this.
I'll call. You want me to call Montgomery? I'll call him.
Why Montgomery? I don't think he's got any.
John Noble, the president of the school board?
I don't know.
John Noble's on the Wall of Fame.
Is he?
Well deserved, yeah.
What do you do?
He's a tennis player.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, look. He one of my family members saw him on the dais as the school board president and thought it was Randy Tack. I'm like, no, that's John Noble.
That's wow.
All right, boys.
Well, tall, thin, bald man.
Oh yeah, great job, Skoo. Thanks for the guests.
You guys.
Joe, thank you for. The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit LaracyCPA.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., Helen, Herrick, JM, and Paul G.